Coming up on episode 96 of Creative Writing, I'm talking about why you should stop creating content and what you should do instead.
I can't go back to sleep, it's almost light. These restless thoughts have kept me up again tonight.
Hello and welcome to Creative Writing. I'm your host, Kirsten Oliphant, and this is the place for writers, bloggers, and creatives who want to build an online platform without being smarmy. I'm so excited that you guys are here today listening to this episode about why you should stop creating content. Yep, that's right. Stop creating content. And if you listen to the quick fix on Friday, you already know a little bit about what's coming. But before we get into why I am going to tell you to stop creating content, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor for this month, Ambition Ally, the makers of Pop-Up Ally Pro. I've been highlighting kind of some different features of the Pop-Up Ally Pro and why I love this plugin. So for me, one of the things that was kind of annoying about all of the different other things that I had used in the past was that you were constantly having to kind of sacrifice something of your branding. Like you were having a pop-up that didn't quite have the right font to it, or it didn't have the right colors, or it didn't have the right shape, but you just had to make do because that's what you had. With Pop-Up Ally Pro, you are able to fully customize and brand all of the pop-ups. There are different shapes that you can choose from, but you can also plug in and get almost every font that you need, and also the brand colors that you use, so that you are not having this weird pop-up that kind of looks like everybody else's pop-up or looks like it doesn't belong on your site. You're actually getting something that you want, and that comes standard with it. So that's just one more feature. And if you'd like to check them out, which you should, this is one of my favorite paid plugins that I have, you can go to ambitionally.com/Kirsten to check out other features of Pop-Up Ally Pro. Okay, so let's get into stop creating content. Okay. And this is really an episode that I'm making in case there's any of you out there who are me. So like I'm talking to me in this episode, and hopefully some of you too. If I'm not talking to you, you can just tweet at me or send me an email and be like, yeah, that was just for you. This did not apply to me, but this is something that I kind of feel more and more passionate about. And I hear more and more people talking about kind of getting trapped in this sort of content creation cycle. So let's start with this. I'm going to just share a little bit about myself. I am a serial starter, okay? And I don't mean cereal like Lucky Charms. I mean like I am constantly starting new projects that lie around unfinished because I love starting. I'm an ideas person. I come up with an idea and I immediately want to do it. So I not only do this with books, where I have probably 6 half-finished books that I've written. Yep, like whole books. I also like to paint. And so I have a room full of paintings that are half-finished. And I, at this very moment, have a halfway painted hallway. Like the main hallway in our house is halfway painted. Now, in my defense, there is some logic behind some of these things because, for example, the paintings and the paint, I really like to have some time to look back at things and like step back and see how the color looks in the light. So after I painted the hallway, halfway down, I realized I don't want to paint it that color. Sometimes you don't know till it's on the walls, and I already had the color, so it wasn't like I went out and bought it. Didn't waste anything other than a little time. So I now know that I don't want my hallway to be blue. And we're going to go back to having a gray in the hallway. But I needed some time to look at it because when I first did it, I loved it. And then the longer it was up there, the more I was like, no. So sometimes starting is good because for me, it gives me that chance to kind of step back and look and decide, is this really what I want to do? But for the most part, it just means I have a lot of half-finished projects and some stress that relates to that. When it comes to blogging, I was not necessarily a serial starter, but I'm going to kind of compare that to the content creation cycle of the blog. So back when I started blogging in 2005, and I had just a photo blog until 2007 when I started an actual writing blog about pregnancy and being pregnant and having my first child. And I posted daily. I actually posted sometimes more than once a day. And it was something I wanted to do, but then It became something I had to do. And as I was starting to make money blogging a few years later, it really felt like I had to blog daily, or at least 5 days a week. And if you ask a lot of people who are making a lot of money blogging, they will tell you that they blog daily or they blog 5 days a week. They are constantly blogging. And after a while, this just felt so suffocating to me. And as time has gone on and blogging has changed and I've changed, I have stepped back more and more. And what I found was really interesting. So my lifestyle blog, KirstenOliphant.com, at this time, I'm lucky if I post there once a week. Really, it's once a month at this point. And that's kind of a sad state of affairs. That's something I would like to remedy. And I have all these drafts of posts and that are waiting for photos or ideas for posts that I've gotten to document, but I haven't been posting there because I've been so caught up over here at creative writing, which is where my passion is right now. But when I first sort of switched from, the several times a day to every day of the week down to 5 days a week, which is where I blogged for a while. And then I took like a pretty big break and it was like once a week or 3 times a week, maybe. My traffic really didn't diminish. And that was shocking to me. And the reason mostly is because of Pinterest. So a lot of my traffic over there comes from Pinterest. In fact, the majority of my traffic comes from Pinterest. And Pinterest, as I've mentioned before, has legs. So once you pin things, they have, they're getting repinned and they have good keywords, they're just going to keep getting pinned. So you may have pinned it 2 years ago, maybe a post from 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and the power of Pinterest just keeps it going. And so my traffic stayed up, and that was really interesting to me to see that. I was still sending a weekly email, and that has kind of gone by the wayside too. Just after Piper was born, I took a much bigger break and stepped back from a lot of things, and it's hard to restart them once you do. But I really felt trapped for a long time in how much I had to blog, and it was so freeing to me to step away and realize that the blog still kind of went on without me. I still maintained, I would say my traffic has dipped a lot now that I'm only blogging once a month. I think that has a huge impact. But when I was blogging, once a week, 3 times a week, maybe, I was still getting like 30,000 page views a month with very little promotion. So that's kind of the power of Pinterest there. And it was so freeing, again, to step off that hamster wheel of feeling like I had to blog all the time. And instead what I did was blog less and did really stellar content and made sure to get it out there on Pinterest and kind of keep that going. So I don't know if you feel that way too, but a lot of times we feel like in this world, we have to keep going and going and going and going and creating new content constantly. So here's the problem with that. First of all, it starts to become a thing where you are trapped. You feel like you're on this hamster wheel that you can't get off of having to create new content constantly. And the thing is that we are no longer in the age where if you blog it, they will come, right? We have to promote it. And so the other pitfall, and this is the one where I really fall deep, is that if you create content that's new and then you don't actually share it or set it up to be shared, you're not going to have page views on there. And this is where that serial is starting. I'm kind of circling back to that. I have a lot of ideas, so I love to do new blog posts. But then I don't often take that second step to go into something like Social Jukebox and set up that post in my content library, which means basically that it'll keep getting posted again and again and again on social media as long, however I have that set up in Social Jukebox. It's kind of a content library and you set up how often you want it to post, and it will post that for you in the link on Facebook or Twitter, wherever you have it set up, as many times as you say it should per month, which may vary depending on the platform. But often I don't even take that time because honestly, I'm so crushed for time that it's all I can do to create new content. And that's the part I enjoy, is writing posts. I don't enjoy going and plugging in a million posts. And I actually took a night, I think over Christmas, and plugged in, 30 of my posts into Social Jukebox so that they keep getting pushed out. But I don't do much with that. And the same thing with, I have Tailwind for Pinterest, and it's really easy to do, but I'm not always in there doing it. Like I just got that email today, hey, your queue is empty, which means I need to go in and set up pins and get that going again. So the other problem, your first problem is you feel like you're on a hamster wheel, and it starts to be where you're not in control anymore. And if you've ever gone on a vacation and ruined your vacation because of blogging, I'm raising my hand over here, then you know what I'm talking about. It feels like you can't stop. But the second problem that I've just been describing is that you may create this content and maybe you love it because I love it. But if you're not actually doing something to promote that content, then it just sits there. Now, the exception is if you have really great SEO. And so that way people are actually finding it because of Google, but a lot of us really struggle with that. And I've been hearing a ton in Facebook groups from bloggers about getting hit hard with the latest Google update, which is Fred. So Google updates its algorithm every so often and they sneak it in there and people notice, and then Google's, yeah, we did it. And so I don't know why it's named Fred, if Google named it that or other people, SEO experts, but it's Fred. And I don't know about you, but I haven't checked my I was like, I just don't want to know. But apparently Fred is wrecking people's page views. So SEO is a great thing, but it can also be fickle. So if you are not doing the work to actually love on those posts that you create, it's not going to do anything for you. Like, what are those posts actually doing? And that's really the question that I want you guys to ask. What is it actually doing for you to create that content? Because again, I love creating content. I love creating new podcast episodes. I love interviewing people. I love writing blog posts. I have a list of blog posts to write that I can't possibly get to. And I really would like to up my YouTube channel. And I have a list of videos to create that I can't possibly find the time right now to create. I love ideas. I love new content. But if I'm not giving the attention and value to the posts and create the content I've already created, then why am I going to keep creating new content? What is it doing? Especially if I don't promote that either. I'm just creating a bunch of content and throwing it up into the void, and it's not doing any good. It's not bringing in new readers. Very few people are finding it because I'm not promoting it. So those are two of kind of the reasons where I feel like if you're in one of those two traps where you're just feeling like your blog owns you, or your, whatever content it is you're pushing out, if it owns you, you need to step back. And if you are not doing a good job, if you're not being a good steward with the content you've already created, then it's time to step back. And I don't know if anybody else, but as soon as I say the word steward, I always think of the Steward of Gondor. So side note there, Lord of the Rings action for you. But we need to be creating content because we love it, but we also need to be a good steward of it. So if you're feeling trapped, stop creating content. If you are not actually actively promoting and setting up some evergreen posts or promotions for that content you're creating, then you should think about stopping. Now, I always want to say with advice that I give that you should do what works for you. So if you're someone who's posting 7 days a week and you are really finding success with that, then just keep going, right? Or you could consider, hey, what if I took it down to 5 days a week? Would my page views change? Because again, like I said, when I stopped posting 7 days a week and went to 5 and then went to 3, my page views did not go down. My page views really only went down when I started posting like once a week or a month. That's the only time I really took a hit, was when I did that. So just so you know, that may be true for you too. And how freeing would it be if instead of doing 5 posts a week, you were doing 3? Okay, that might feel really good. Okay, so I said I was going to share what you should do instead. And I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to give kind of an announcement, which you may have already heard if you listened to the Quick Fix on Friday. So let's talk about what you should do instead. And I've got a couple of options, just 2. And the first one is that you should repurpose the content that you already have. And this is something that I have been really working hard at this year, is to think about creative ways to repurpose content. And I actually I did a whole episode on a creative way that I repurpose content. And that was I'm actually going to look right here, episode 90. And I have a case study in there to show you how I actually made money repurposing some free stuff. So one thing that you can do is take the content that you already have and repurpose it. And what that basically means is you can take an old blog post that was really good but needs new images, polish it up. And some people like to republish things, which you can only do if you don't have dates in your URL. So if you have I'm looking at episode 90, it's creativewriting.com/repurposing-content. So I could republish that one. And what it would do was make it come right back up. Although I, just published that recently in February, so I don't want to do that. But republishing is a way that makes it come to the forefront again. So a lot of people really like to do that. But you could also, that's just not something I'm really into. For me, I just like to polish it up and do a new image and then share it. So an example of that for me is I have a free guide, and it's called Seriously Simple Social. And I'm kind of doing some things with it. I'll talk to you guys about what I'm doing with it later. But I wanted to kind of freshen it up. So I went ahead and created a new cover for it. And I haven't updated the post, but I updated the image. I'm going to update it on the blog. In the post, I'm going to update new pins with it. And I've actually created some kind of new promotions for my opt-ins, and I'm going to use the new image, which I really, really love. And if you want to find that, you can go to creativewriting.com/058. And as of right now, it's got the old one up there, and I'm going to update it. So that's something that you can do, is sometimes just changing an image. It looks so much better, so much more fresh. And I've kind of changed how my images look now too. So that's a really big thing, is to have it kind of match the current branding that I have. So repurposing content, maybe you are taking parts of your ebook and making it into blog posts, or maybe you're taking some blog posts and making them into an ebook. Figuring out creative ways to take things that you've already done and already spent time on and tweaking them rather than creating new content saves you time, and it makes good use of what you already have. So that's one thing you can do, is repurpose the content. Instead of creating new content, you can repurpose what you have. The other thing that you can do is make sure you're being that good steward of your content. Again, I'm still hearing Steward of Gondor. So what that means is you can actually spend the time to promote the way that you should. So setting up something, Meet Edgar is a great example of a content library. Recur Post does this. Social Jukebox does this, where you set up links to, your evergreen content. That's the best stuff to do. You don't want to do something like this giveaway, which ends in 4 days, and stick that in there and have it share that every month. That's dumb. But you take your evergreen content, and maybe what you need to do is plug right into your workflow. As soon as you finish a blog post, you go over to whichever one of those you want. And Meet Edgar is like $79 a month, which just seems so steep for me. Recur Post and Social Jukebox both have free plans. So I think it's like up to like 100 or so, I know, in Social Jukebox. And hey, if you really want to be totally bootstrappy, you could do 100 in Social Jukebox and then do the maximum in the free part of Recur Post. And then when you hit that limit, maybe consider if you need to take some out that aren't working so well, or get the paid plan. But either way, what you should do instead of creating new content is make sure you're being a good steward and actually setting up promotions for the other ones. Use Tailwind to schedule your content to go out over Pinterest. Make sure you're sharing it on Facebook. I had a great opportunity this month. Paula Rollo from Beauty Through Imperfection is my partner in the Profitable Blogging Summit. And she was like, hey, why don't you go ahead and schedule some of your posts on my Facebook page during this time where we're too busy to do a lot of stuff to keep our page views up. And I didn't even take the time to do it. And she has a great following on Facebook. It's very engaged. And I didn't even take the time because I'm so busy. I was like, no. And what a wasted opportunity. So kick me here. Wasted opportunity, Kiki. Why didn't I do this? I don't know. That's one of the first things I should have done to make sure that eyes were still going to my blog while I'm not producing a lot of content. My old posts, making sure people are still reading them, because there's so many posts that are still relevant. I was going through and cleaning some stuff up and realized just how many posts I have, both on creative writing, because I've got 2 years of content where I was doing at least 1 to 2 posts a week, right? Do the math. That's a lot of posts. Same thing with Kirsten Oliphant. Back when I was doing 7 posts a week, you guys, there's so much content on there and it's just buried and I forget about it and it's not being shared. So the 2 things you should do are consider how you can repurpose your content, and then also consider how you can actually make sure you're promoting and giving the content you've already created the love it deserves. So now to my announcement. I am actually going to take some time off. Not yet, but we're going to do this probably mid to end May, because what I want to do is stop creating new content, even though it kills me because I have so many ideas and I have all these people lined up for interviews and I don't know if I can get them in before the break. But I need to stop creating all this new content because I need to be a better steward, and I really have to take time off for that. And the other thing is, all the time I'm doing all this hamster wheel kind of stuff and just creating every week, new podcast, I am missing out on things that I want to do, like longer form content. I have a couple books that I want to put out this year. And, people are always like, how do you do it with 5 kids? Well, some things have to go. And right now I'm, I've built courses. I've done a lot, you guys. I know you know that. I don't need to tell you that because I have people constantly telling me I do a lot, but it's only a fraction of what I want to do, right? So a lot of things just don't get done. And that includes both work and life, like dishes. Right now, dishes are not done at my house. Just keeping it real. My office is cluttered and it drives me crazy. I don't want to look at it. I try to put mental blinders on so I can still work because it's really hard for me to work in a cluttered space, but I don't have the time. So I'm going to take some time off, hang out with the family. Summers are really busy anyway. It's very hard to do podcasting or anything else with all my kids home and out of school and my husband out of town a lot. So I'm going to take time off to hang out with my family, not be on the hamster wheel, to set up promotions for my already created content, and to take some time to create bigger content like writing books or updating courses. I have a million ideas. So I'm actually going to be creating new content. It's just not the must create weekly content kind of content. So that is kind of my big announcement for you guys. So that'll become the mid in May. And it really kills me to do this because I know I'm going to miss the podcast. I love it. And I actually just found out I'm speaking at Podcast Movement in August, which I'm thrilled about. So I may start back a little bit earlier because I do want to have some fresh content when I go there and connect with people. So they're not like, wait, why did your podcast end in May? But I am going to be speaking there. I'm leading a mastermind workshop, which I'm thrilled to do and so excited. And I've been podcasting for 2 years. It's really crazy to take a big break. And 2 years ago, actually, when I went to Podcast Movement for the first time, I just started my podcast a couple months before that. And when I was walking around at Podcast Movement, I thought to myself, I want to speak here someday. This is a goal I have. I want to speak at Podcast Movement. And it's so exciting to me that that's actually come to fruition. So it does kill me to step away from the podcast. I love hearing from people who are like, I've podcasted every week for like 5 years. And I'm like, that's amazing. But I just can't right now if I want to get the other things done. And you need to give yourself that grace too. If you're feeling like you need to step off the hamster wheel, if you need to step away, if you need to take a break to either just live your life. And if you listen to the quick fix, I explained that I read a book. I read one of our community members, Stephanie Morrow's book, The Lost Girl of Astor Street, instead of working the other day. And it was amazing. And I was like, I miss this, having a life, reading a book. Because if you do have 5 kids and you're trying to run a business and have a podcast and a blog, you don't have time to read a book, you guys. That's like a luxury I do not have. And I want it back. So I think I'll still even struggle with balance because if I am trying to write a book and also live my life and have 5 kids, it's a lot. So all this to say, I want to encourage you guys to think about if you are creating too much content without actually promoting that content. Are you creating so much that it's starting to own you instead of being something that you own? And maybe if so, it's time to step away or just step back or pause or experiment to see, do I really need to post 5 times a week? Do I need to do 3 Instagram posts a day? Or could I just get away with 1? What's going to change? And track that. Don't just make guesswork of it. Everything has analytics. So you can actually see, like on Facebook, if you post 3 times a day instead of 13 and your Facebook page, anyway, you have analytics. What's that going to do to your following? What's that going to do to your reach? Experiment. And if you can get away with less, then do it so that you can actually be a better steward of the content that you have. So that's what I'm going to leave you guys with today. And I hope somebody other than me needs to hear that. Like, again, this is the podcast. I'm speaking to myself. Stop creating content, you dreamer, with all your ideas. Calm down and take care of what you already have. But do keep a list. I have Evernote on my phone and my computer. And whenever I have these new ideas, I have files where I put them down. And then I have to go back and look. And I have like 50 blog post ideas that one day maybe I'll write. And there's seasons too, right? I have 5 kids and in a couple years, they're all going to be in school. And I'm going to be wondering how I got to be so old. But, and I know from people who have kids in school, like, oh, it just gets busier. And yeah, but I also know that for me, I'm going to prioritize this. This is my job. Even though I'm not going to an office, I'm not going to take on a lot of roles at my kids' school unless I really feel like I want to do that because this is my job and I'm going to consider it a job. And the time my kids are in school, I am going to work. Okay. I'm going to be writing and creating. So just wait for a couple of years, you guys, and I'm going to be producing crazy content. But for now, I'm going to rest. I'm going to pause. So you'll have a couple more months of podcasts from me and about 6 to 8 weeks. And then I'm going to take a break and come back probably in August again before podcast movement. So I'm not going in after not podcasting forever. Yeah, so that's it, you guys. I'm super excited about taking a break, even though I'm sad, because I know that one, I'm going to enjoy living my life, but two, life is going to go on. And I think that's the biggest secret when you step away. And if you've stepped away from anything before and seen life go on, you know what I'm talking about. You could tweet at me and be like, yep, that's happened to me. So it's really refreshing and freeing to see what you can do. Like, again, you don't want to do just like the least amount, but how little can you post or create and still see the same results that you want to have? And so that's something that you want to think about. Now, if you love, again, like me, if you love creating content and you have the time and you're being a good steward, then just keep on with it. But if not, take a break, step back. That's it, you guys. So I will have an episode, the show notes up at creativewriting.com/096 for episode 96. I do not have any more reviews read in Australian accent. Let me know if you missed those, because I didn't really hear a lot of feedback, and I'm not going to keep paying some Australian guy to read them if you guys aren't excited, but I am still running the contest. We have a couple more episodes left. In 4 weeks, we're going to end the contest. I'm going to announce a winner who wins entrance into my courses and gets my books just for leaving a review on iTunes, which is much easier on your phone in the podcast app, just so you know. So only a few of you guys have actually sent me screenshots. Now, you may leave a review, but if you don't send me a screenshot, I'm not counting it because it's way too hard to go in through the iTunes reviews and actually do that in a good way. So just, yes, send me a screenshot of your review and you will be entered to win. Okay, Kirsten at kirstenoliphant.com. Tweet at me at Kiki Mojo. I'm there. Don't forget to check out our sponsor and see all of the amazing features of Pop-Up Ally Pro. Again, it's something that I use, so I'm very glad to promote it. You can find that at ambitionally.com/Kirsten. If you're not already subscribed to my email, you're missing out. So you need to go to creativewriting.com/quick fix so that you can get my weekly emails, which will continue. I'm not taking a full break. I should explain that a little bit more. I'm still going to be in Facebook groups. I'm still going to be in my paid community, which, you guys, if you're not taking advantage of the paid community, you can start for $1. Get your first month for $1 to see if it's for you. I feel like that's a really good way to get into the paid community and see if it's going to be enough value for you, if it's going to be something that you should invest in instead of investing in a course or some other kind of package that you want if you want to take the next steps forward. So you can find out about that by going to creativewriting.com/membership. All right, you guys, I'm headed out and I hope you have an inspired week.